Today I'm doing sleepy rice and some saltfish gravy. I will show you how I'm preparing my sleepy rice. I have on my peas with some onions, some green onions and some sweet onions. So I've got my pot on, so I'm going to let those peas cook. See, my slit peas are on. I'm going to let them cook a while. You don't want them to be cooked too soft for when you add your rice. So you're going to let them cook. You're going to let them cook, but not that don't let them mash. So I'll put that on, let that cook. Put on your peas, you pick your peas, pick out any bad grains, any stuff. You wash them and you place them into your pot. So you add your onions. I'm not going to add, you can add your salt, but I'm not going to use salt. As you know, I don't use salt. I will add my all-purpose seasoning to this pot, but I'm not going to add it right now. I'm going to let my peas and my onions cook first. Here I have my saltfish on. I have my saltfish or codfish, what you want to call it. I have it on, so I'm going to let that boil to get out the salt. Then I'm going to throw off that water, and then I'm going to add a second set of water to get enough salt out of that saltfish because I don't want it too salted. Now your peas are cooked. This is what we want our peas at. We don't need those overcooked or your rice will become soggy. But you don't want no soggy rice, so I'm going to add my rice now. I washed my rice, so I will now add my rice. I'm going to give it a stir. Then I'm going to add my water. I just enough water to cover my rice. Every cup of rice, 2 cups of water. Now here I add my all-purpose seasonings. This is a 1/4 cup, where is 4 tablespoons. Remember, I haven't added any salt, so this is what I'm going to add in place of my salt. So I add that and give it a stir. At this point you can add 2 tablespoons of butter, or you can add your oil. Any kind of oil you choose to use, you can add at this stage. When you add your oil, you're going to use the same quarter cup, and which is a small cup. You can add this 1/4 cup of oil, and then you make your stir. You can see your peas and your rice. For every cup of rice, I don't know how much you're going to cook, but every cup of rice you add 2 cups of water. Do not overcook your slit peas because you don't want them to match up. You want to see your peas in your rice. So I will now cover my rice. The saltfish have been cooked. The salt have been boiled out. You're going to try to get as much salt out of this saltfish as possible, so you boil it about 2 to 3 times for about 15 to half an hour. That's all it's going to take, up to half an hour. So about every 15 minutes you're going to boil out the salt. So I clean my fish. So what you do now, you're going to crush this fish with your hands, because you want to feel the bones to make sure that those bones are out. So you just give a little crush with your hands and you feel for those tiny bones. Make sure your hands are clean. If you're doing this for professional purposes, as I always keep saying, make sure that you wear gloves, which is food gloves, clear crystal gloves. You use those to do your cooking. So you're going to debone your fish. And I prepared and gonna debone my fish. Anytime you're cooking rice, make sure you do your gravies first. The gravies should always be done first, but if it's something like fish or mackerel and that stuff, you wait. That will be the last thing you do. In between, when you having your rice, you place your rice on and you start to do your mackerel, because you don't want your gravy going cold, you don't want your rice going cold. So you prepare your meats. If it's lamb, chicken, beef, prepare your meats first and you let your rice be the last. If you're going to do saltfish gravy or frizzled saltfish or mackerel, tuna, you do these things in the middle when you're cooking your rice and preparing your rice. But you will always make sure you boil your saltfish way ahead. You could either, if you don't want to boil the saltfish, you gotta soak it. So you soak it for hours before, because you want that salt out. So I'm going to prepare my saltfish now. I have now finished frizzle my saltfish, crushed my saltfish, taking out all the bones, so I will now fry it. Here I prepared my pan, ready to start my frying and doing my saltfish gravy. So I prepared my pan. So now first thing I'm going to drop in here is my onions. I have my bowl of onions. I have grated onions, and I also have my onions just chopped. You can chop them big, you can slice them, how you choose to do it. But you know I love a lot of onions, and you put some garlic cloves in there and you saute this. So here I'm going to saute my onions before I add my fish. I'm just going to saute these onions, and then I will add my fish and then my spices. I've flavored my rice, so I won't need a lot of water because I don't want all the gravy, so I won't be using a lot of gravy. I will just be like frizzling the fish a little and adding a little water, not plenty. So I have my grated onions and my sliced onions because I love a lot of onions. So I use about 5 to 6 small onions. You need a fair size, and you do that. I love a lot of onions in my meats and my saltfish. I love a lot of onions. I love the flavor. You get that nice flavor. You can add green onions, and you can add the purple sweet onions. You add your garlic. You get that sweet scent coming off there. Now this is how some Bajans prepares our stuff. This is a Bajan way. I love my onions. I don't like my onions burned. I hate the smell of burnt onions. So I'm just gonna saute. Let them get a little cooking. Want them cooked nice and soft. So I'm going to saute here. So I'm going to let that sit there a little while on a medium heat. You don't need your heat too high when you're doing these onions. If your heat is too high, onions are going to burn. And you keep stirring your onions. You don't want them to burn. Keep stirring your onions. And you lower your flames. Don't want the flames too high. See how soft they're looking? Nice. And you can also add some fresh tomatoes. If you're not going to use the tomato sauce, you can add some fresh tomatoes. You can add some chive. I'm not going to add no chive today. I might put a little bit of Bajan seasoning, green seasoning to this, the packaged one or the bottle one, which you choose. And no, as usual, I'm going to add my all-purpose seasoning. I'm not using any salt. I'm not going to use any pepper, but you can add some Scotch bonnet pepper. The pepper makes your fish taste nice. It tastes better, not taste nice, but tastes better. It tastes nice already, but it tastes better. So here I got my onion saute. Oh my, it's smelling lovely. Once you get them cooked, you don't use too much oil. You don't want a lot of oil. You don't want your food too oily. So don't cover these onions with oil. Let them be enough where it can saute and where they can cook a little through. So I'm going to leave that for about 2 minutes. Please don't let your onions, don't let them sit too long to burn. Now you're going to add your saltfish. Here, I'm adding my saltfish and I'm going to let it saute while I add my favorite thing, my all-purpose seasoning, and I've added some Bajan thyme. I add my Bajan thyme to this. So you add your all-purpose seasoning, you add your thyme, don't add no salt. Remember, this is saltfish, you don't want it too salty. Because remember, you didn't wash all the salt out. And you mix it in, combine this together. You can add ketchup to this if you want. You can add some ketchup, or as I said, your tomatoes. You can cut up your tomatoes and you can add to this. Sometimes I have to stop talking to concentrate on my stirring. Holding the phone and cooking is not easy. So, you know, this is just my home cooking. So I'm just showing you simple ways in doing your stuff. Bajan cooking is quite easy. So this is, you can do your fizzle fish. You can do your fizzle fish like this as well. And this is all you're going to do for your fizzle fish. You're not going to put any water, but I'm going to add a little water to this. But for your fizzle fish, you don't add any water. You add your peppers, your tomatoes, your chives. You can add. But you see, I add a lot of onions, so I don't need that chive. Don't need that green stuff. And I can add some Bajan seasoning to this. I've added sufficient all-purpose seasoning. It depends on how much saltfish you're going to do. You're going to add your all-purpose seasoning, but you're adding to taste. You want it with a nice flavor, but you want it to taste, and you don't want it too salty. So you don't make it too salted. So I'm going to add a little water here. So I've added a little water, as you see. So I'm going to let that cook my onions through right now. I'm going to let that little water cook my onions through right now. And then I will turn my stove off while I check on my rice. My rice is drying down perfect. You can see all of my peas, because I haven't cooked the peas that they will mash up. I cooked the peas that they will stay a little firm there. So do not overcook your peas that they will crush. You don't want the peas crushed. They're going to make your rice soggy. You don't want your rice soggy. So this is my rice drying down right now. I've turned down my stove, so my rice is drying down right now, and I'm going to let it steam while my saltfish continue to cook. As you see, my saltfish is drying down. There's not much water there. Don't need much water because I have flavored my rice, so not much water I would use. You know, in Barbados, Bajans usually call this poor man food. Saltfish was a poor man's food when you can afford to buy the chicken and the beef and the pork. But now saltfish is much more expensive than chicken and pork. So saltfish is no longer a poor man food. It's become a rich man food because you have money in order to buy this saltfish. Saltfish is about $5 and something cents a pound, while you can get chicken at $3 something a pound. $3 and something cents a pound, $4 and something cents a pound. While you have to buy the saltfish at $6 and $5 and $7 a pound. Saltfish becomes so expensive, so it's no longer a poor man's food. Sometimes the poorest man can't even afford to buy half pound of saltfish because it's become that expensive here in Barbados. Our economy is very high, pricing is very high, and with this COVID-19, prices have even gone skyrocket, which is ridiculous. A poor man can't even eat in Barbados these days because they can't afford the prices that we are being charged. But our foods are nice. It's becoming more expensive to buy food. So the poor man, the really poor man, can't afford to buy this. We have to buy now in Barbados a tin of corned beef for almost $6 and $7. So that's not even a poor man food either. The tunas have no, you got to pay $3, $2, almost $4 now for a tin of tuna, and that's a canned stuff. So we no longer have poor man food in Barbados, but this used to be called the poor man food. Your slippy rice is finished. It's all done, dried down, and it's looking lovely, folks. That's your slippy rice. Now here is your gravy, your saltfish gravy. You see, it doesn't have a lot of water, and it's looking all nice. So that's finished as well. Now folks, this is our plate of slippy rice, or yellow slippy rice, and our saltfish and some veg. So we have our saltfish gravy here, and we have our veg, and we have our yellow slippy rice. So this is your plate. Nice lovely plate of Bajan yellow slippy rice and saltfish. There you go, folks. Now thanks for joining me. Herbert Sweet for Days from the Good Old Bajan Cooking Group on Facebook. Come on down, visit us on Facebook. Anyone can join, learn our Bajan dishes. You all are welcome. Thank you for watching my channel. If you want to continue have these nice lovely dishes, you want to see them, you want to see how they're prepared, please like, subscribe, and share to my YouTube channel. Thank you.